Welcome back to Talk Solent. Great to have your company. We've got Neshla Avey and Mike Stratton on the panel today. Too hungry to think, too poor to wash, too exhausted to learn. These are words used in an article in the Portsmouth News this week to describe a scenario with child poverty which has worsened, not just here in Hampshire, but nationally. A Hampshire head teacher recently kept his school open during a snowstorm, the Portsmouth News also talked about this week, as he was so concerned about his pupils getting a decent meal. Now, surely these are situations that belong in the 1930s and 40s, not in 2018. Now, Neshla and Mike, quite a few issues here to try and untangle. We're talking about child poverty here, which really does sound shocking in 2018. What are your immediate thoughts, Mike, when you hear about, schools and teachers worried about the kids that are coming in? For example, this one in Weimering, I hope I pronounced that properly, Weimering, Medina Primary School. The head teacher admitted he was so concerned about the crisis that he kept his school open during a snowstorm to make certain impoverished pupils get at least one hot meal.
I don't think it's national. I think it's global. The problem is, when I was a parent, when me and my ex-wife were bringing our kids up, yeah, we struggled, and we struggled a lot. We always made sure our kids never went without. They always came first. The problem is, there's not the resources around to do that anymore, because there's just no money around. There's cutting benefits, there's cutting wages, there's loss of jobs, there's unemployment. Things are more expensive, wages haven't gone up. So I kind of blame the system. I don't really blame the parents. It's not the parents' fault. So I think there needs to be provisions, I've used that word again, for schools to be able to, there should be funding at the schools, like school dinners. It's okay saying send your kids in with a packed lunch, but they're so expensive to do. If you've got 2 or 3 kids, they can cost you 50 quid a week just in packed lunches, and there's very little in there. I don't know. I blame the system for this. I can't blame the parents at all, and I can see the school's concerns, but I do think it's global. I don't think it's just national, and I can't see a way around it. Not unless the government step in.
Neshla, surely these are exceptional, unusual stories. The general situation can't be as bad as this across the board, not in 2018, can it?
Well, I mean, you'd like to think not, wouldn't you? And I think it's really sad that there are people in poverty, and it's a shame that we can't all help each other, really. But it's very difficult knowing what to do. And as I say, it was really nice of the school head to actually try and help and recognise it in some of the pupils. But where do you go? What do you do? I mean, I remember when I was at school, we always used to have milk. Do you remember that horrible milk we used to have every day? And school dinners, and if people couldn't afford it, they used to get free school dinners and looked after, and they get a lot more help. But I'm a bit out of the loop of what the help children get these days.
Cost of uniforms as well, though, isn't it? I mean, they go up you can go to Asda's and places, excuse me, you can go to Asda's and places and get very, very good quality clothes for very little amount of money. But if you've got 2 or 3 children, that's a fair old bill.
Yeah.
And children grow, so you're constantly changing uniforms. It's awful. Shoes are not cheap.
What about this statement here? These were... sorry, Neshla.
I was just going to say, it's not just a uniform, because I remember when mine went to school, it was like a PE kit for this and a PE kit for that, and everything. It does add up.
In this article here in the Portsmouth News, the writer says political parties will be quick to blame one another with rhetoric and feisty words, but ultimately they're all to blame in one way or another.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Rhetoric and feisty words.
Yeah, it's very sad, very sad.
And this article also mentioned austerity measures, obviously recently with the welfare state, and the recession of 2008, which was already 10 years ago, and it says in the article the government insists it's doing all it can to address the situation, but frankly what is going on nationally as well as in Portsmouth is disgraceful.
My problem is money which comes out of the taxpayer's pocket is not being used for the all intents and purposes that it should be. It's being used for unnecessary things. All right. As a driver, I don't care about little potholes in the road or a little bit of cracked tarmac here, or I don't care about that. I'd rather see that money go into government funds where situations like this can be funded. Schools can be funded. I don't agree with firearms. I don't agree with going to war. I don't agree with any conflicts like that. All that money could be reinvested. Instead of being spent on firearms, it could be invested in schools, police force, crime busting remedies, remedial programs like youth centres, activity centres. It's all down to lack of funding, and I don't. That's all I can say really. It's avoidable. It's avoidable.
I don't think we've done the subject justice. I think we're going to have to come back to this in the next few weeks and talk more about this. There are many issues, and of course, funding is just one of them. Many would argue.
It is funding.
Moving on to something completely different now. We've got our resident commentator on all things spiritual with us today. It's been a few months. Neshla Avey. And Neshla, so completely changing the subject now. I'd like your opinion on this article. This is actually in the States, in the Indy Star. The article is entitled "Doggy Psychics Called After Noblesville Poodle Rescued from Puppy Mill Goes Missing." So we're talking about human beings who have a telepathic or psychic connection, or animal communicators as they're called, and they can obviously find these animals, communicate with these animals that have gone missing, much to the devastation of their owners. Now, is this a bit far-fetched, telepathic psychic communication with animals?
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, if you say that.
It's all about energy, isn't it? It's like, if I'm reading somebody, I'm reading their energy. You can do that. I've done it myself. But like anything, you don't want to do everything. But you tune into that animal's energy the same as you tune into a person. So for example, some of the police force, especially in the States, will use a psychic to find a missing person, or find if they're stumped on a murder case, they might get a psychic to look into this.
We've seen that quite a bit.
Yeah, well, why not look for an animal? It's the same thing. It's an energy. So a psychic could still find a missing animal, or as I say, or indeed if you've got a behavioural problem with an animal, they can talk and find out why. And I put mine myself. I know quite a few animal psychics that do that full time. Yeah.
Right.
And they do. They help people. So people tend to go to them if they, A, for missing animals, but B, for if there's a problem, if their cat keeps peeing on the doormat or something suddenly, and they know no reason why, they can talk to that cat and ask them why they're doing it, why are they distressed, and then the owner can sort it out.
Well, many would say that animals are much more tuned into and reliant on their sixth sense and their intuition than human beings, and for animals that's completely normal. That's all they've got, whereas as humans we've gone away from that.
Exactly. We use our voice box to communicate with each other. Animals do it telepathically, so we can do that. It's just using an old skill, if you like, that we've left dormant. But obviously, we've been grown, people have brought out. It's strange, isn't it, to say that, to communicate. I don't know what you think about communication.
I don't think it's strange at all.
No, but a lot of people would. Yeah. A lot of people think I'm strange, to be fair.
I don't think it's strange, Neshla, at all.
Oh, thank you. But it's what
we're
you
used
do.
To on Talk Solent.
But yeah, it is a strange thing, doesn't it? Because not everyone goes around talking to their animals.
No.
I mean,
Oh,
you
do.
think about Dr. Dolittle, don't you? I mean, you know, about talking to animals. But yes, and I think if people could use their services, you know, because it is very distressing losing a pet.
Many people say, well, animals have got the same personalities, the same moods, the same feelings as us. They just don't have the same verbal.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know, have you got pets?
I've got two cats.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, right? They are characters all of their own.
That's right.
And you know, they've had to be worked on very, very hard to get them to be sociable. Well, one of them's sociable anyway. The other one is now like, you know, I've got a son and daughter, son and mother and son, and the mother was a little bit more sort of backward in coming forward, but she's like the other one now. But it's took a lot of work, a lot of talking to, a lot of stroking, a lot of fuss. But I do believe animals. They've definitely got feelings.
Of course they have. I mean, they're like us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, one of my cats, I can tell him to sit and lay down, and he'll do it. It's really mad to see it. You
But they know
believe
everything you say to them. They understand. It's just that not everyone's tuned in to understand what they're saying back, and that's where you might ask an animal psychic, because they can understand and hear the animal communicating back. But as you say, they've all got their personalities, and that's why, you know, if someone's lost a pet and they're devastated, some other people will say, well, why are you so upset? It's a dog or a cat, you know. But they are part of the family.
It's part of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got to be an animal lover to understand an animal.
Yeah,
definitely.
And Neshla, you're quite used to people who are cynical,
of course,
or people who dismiss these things.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got more spiritual and metaphysical to talk about in the last part of Talk Solent. We'll be back with you again very shortly. We're just going to take another break, and we'll be straight back after that.